right, Trenbolone, the ultimate guide, a guide to effective Trenbolone use and side effect mitigation when using Tren. For those of you guys that are new to my page or just followed me, my name is Evan Quinn. I'm a lifestyle and physique coach for guys doing lifestyle bodybuilding. I don't necessarily coach competitors. I just help guys basically do bodybuilding to enhance their life and basically help people with the training, nutrition, gear protocols, all that kind of stuff, and basically helping people live their lives like bodybuilders. And Trenbolone is one of those things where you will hear a lot of guys fucking talk about how if you don't compete, you cannot take Tren. And they're like, oh, well, if you're not doing a competition, you can't take Trenbolone. But in reality, it's like, well, fuck. I mean, it's such an effective tool in bodybuilding. And it's very multi-purpose. You don't have to just use it when you're fucking dieting. You can use it for bulking. You can use it for cutting. You can use it for like body recomposition, anything. It's one of the most powerful agents in bodybuilding. And to say that you can't use it just because you don't fucking want to step on stage in your fucking underwear is fucking ridiculous. So basically, this is why I made this video. Okay, so you'll hear a lot of, or you'll see a lot of content rolling around Trenbolone in the space, in the bodybuilding, steroid space, all that kind of stuff, in the PED education space. But a lot of it is it's risk mitigation, and they're telling you not to use it. You're steering you away from it. But in reality, like, you guys are going to use it anyways, right? And I think those risk mitigation videos are important because Trenbolone comes with a whole host of side effects, right? It's one of the most side effect ridden drugs in bodybuilding, but at the same time, the most powerful drug in bodybuilding. So those risk mitigation videos are very important, but you don't really see so much content on how to actually apply it and use it in real time. So this is what this video is for. So basically, from the direct messages you guys send me on Instagram, because you guys send me a lot of DMs on a daily basis, I literally see what goes on like in real time with real problems, what guys are dealing with. And a lot of you guys are mentioning you guys are getting a lot of problems using Tren, which is not fucking surprising at all. So you guys, I would say the most common one you guys are getting are mental effects. So anxiety and mood swings. For example, when I take Tren at a certain dose, like 200 to 300 milligrams, I feel great. I feel euphoric. I feel confident. I feel like, like my characteristics are amplified. But at a certain threshold dose past 300 milligrams, then those effects become almost overwhelming and they affect my life. And I start getting anxiety, paranoia, all this fucking garbage going on in my head. So obviously we want to avoid that. But I'm hearing that's like, I would say one of the most common side effects with Trenbolone is the way it affects your brain. Gyno, you guys are getting gyno when you say Tren. This is not like normal gyno, where it's like, when you take a lot of testosterone and don't control your estrogen, or take something like D-ball, where it's like your nipples are burning and it's very, very noticeable. The gyno from Tren and also NPP and DECA, NE19 NOR, it's more like a slow, gradual accumulation of like this like hard tissue under your nipple. And it's like, it's tender to the touch. Like I even have some right now. I've used a lot of Tren in my days. I even have some right now, and it's just like it's like a tender kind of lump that slowly accumulates over time, as opposed to the estrogen based gyno. It's more like acute. It's like, it's very fucking noticeable. It fucking burns. So you guys are getting that. Let's take a sip of water here. I always talk fast when I talk about a topic that I'm excited about. So I'm going to be pounding this water throughout the entire video because I get very excited when I talk about Tren. Insomnia. You guys are getting insomnia. So this is probably another really common issue with Tren. It's like the classic Tren insomnia, where it's like you like wake up 5 times a night. Your quality of sleep is, kind of diminished. You wake up in like a fucking pool of sweat, and it really affects your sleep. And sleep is obviously really key for recovery. You're not sleeping, you're not going to recover. And your Tren is not really doing its job. That being said, when I take Trenbolone, I can usually operate on less sleep, which is really interesting. I can sleep for like 6 hours, 5 hours and feel great, as opposed to if I wasn't taking Tren, I would need more sleep. It's just something to consider. So poor lipids. If you guys ever get blood work when you guys take Tren, your lipids are probably going to be destroyed. So your LDL is going to be elevated and your HDL is going to be tanked. That's just the nature of the drug. High blood pressure. You guys are experiencing high blood pressure when you take Tren. Tren is notorious for causing that. It's not uncommon if you don't do measures to control it. Their blood pressure is going to be anywhere from like 130 to even I've even seen like 160 systolic, which is like really fucking high. So obviously having chronically elevated blood pressure is not going to be good. This is like the silent killer of bodybuilders. Okay, having chronically high blood pressures, that's going to cause stress in the kidneys. That's going to cause some elevation or deregulation of EGFR and increasing other markers like creatinine and BUN. So blood pressure, we need to solve that issue. Cardio, your cardio goes down. So when you guys take Tren, you guys will probably notice, okay, like when you do, let's say, a set of 10 on squats, normally you'd feel fine, but after you finish that set, you're just fucking bent over and fucking gassed. Or maybe you do like a set of like 3 on deadlifts and you're like, what the fuck? Why I just feel like I just ran a marathon? Why do I feel like I just fucking sprinted? That can affect your gym performance. It can affect how deep you can push yourself into sets. It can affect the amount of rest time you have to take in between sets. So we don't want this. So the end result of all these issues is just a poor result after your cycle, or having to cut your cycle short because you just got riddled with fucking side effects. So we want to solve this right here, and we want a proper application of how to actually use Trenbolone so you don't get those effects and you can get all the benefits of it. So let's talk about my experience using Tren. And I'm going to go and spit this in out because it's like making me choke. It's giving me like fucking hiccups. Anyways, first Trenbolone cycle. So I've used a fair share of Tren in my cycles. I used to use it a lot when I first started using gear because I thought it was the answer, and I thought it was the answer to getting me fucking huge. But like, wow, was I fucking wrong? Like, is not really the answer. Like, more Tren is not the fucking answer to get huge. But my first Tren cycle, I've talked about this a lot in my content. My first Tren cycle, I titrated the dose up to 1,000 milligrams. First time ever taking Tren in my life. And that was something else. And it was interesting because when I finished that cycle, I was only 175 pounds and I looked like shit. Like, I looked terrible. Versus today, I can take a quarter of that fucking dose and I look way fucking bigger. I make way more progress. My recovery is better. So obviously, like I said, more Tren is not the answer, but let's just talk about my first Tren cycle here. So I started off at 350 milligrams. So it's a pretty standard dose to start at. So what I noticed is better pumps, increased strength in the gym, an increased metabolism. So I got leaner eating the same amount of food. I got more hardness and vascularity. My sex drive was fucking insane. Like, I could literally fuck a hole in the wall, and I had high energy. Like, I felt really good on that dose. Now, I saw these effects, and being a fucking retarded, like, 23-year-old, I got greedy. So what did I do? I fucking upped the dose. So I went from 350 milligrams and I bumped it up to 500 milligrams. Keep in mind, I was using acetate, right? Tren acetate. So when I bumped it up to 500 milligrams, so I got better pumps. So that all these effects were amplified, right? So I got way better pumps, way more strength increase, way better metabolism. So I got even leaner eating the same amount of food, more hardness and vascularity. Like, again, sex drive, it was already insane, and it got even like worse. Like, it was like actually affecting like my mental state. And then even better energy. And this was even a little bit, these two were very overwhelming. Like, this is like, Tren is a very stimulatory drug. You guys have been on it. And 500 milligrams for me was like that threshold dose where it's like, okay, if I do more, I'm fucked. But of course I got even greedier. So keep in mind, I was like, that full Tren cycle was probably about 16 weeks. So the first 4 weeks I was doing this, the next 4 weeks I was doing this. We're at about week 8 right now. And then I bumped the dose up to 750. Now, all that happened was like, none of these effects got better. Like, in fact, the effects, they kind of leveled off after about 500 milligrams. I just got more and more side effects. So this dose right here, I was side effect free. This dose is where I started really getting issues. So I got diminishing returns. So the positive effects were not much better than 500 milligrams. I started getting anxiety. I started not sleeping. I started sweating all the fucking time, like just sitting down, like I'd eat a meal and then I'd just be like drenched in fucking sweat. And I'd wake up in like a fucking pool of sweat in the middle of the night. I got liver toxicity or just toxicity in general. So I was losing my appetite. I couldn't eat my food. So obviously if you're trying to grow, you need to eat. And if you're not fucking eating, you're not growing. So I was like skipping meals because I just wasn't fucking hungry. And I got lowered energy. Like I just felt like kind of shit all the time. And then, the last couple of weeks of that trend cycle, I'm like, fuck this. Like, I just want to finish my vial and just like never fucking use this again. But obviously I kept on using it after that, which is kind of funny. So I wanted to finish off my vial. So I'm like, all right, last 2 weeks, I'm just going to bump it up to 1,000. So did 1,000 milligrams. At this point, I like literally could not fucking sleep. Like it would take me like hours to fall asleep, and the quality of sleep I would get would be just fucking shit. My training really started to suffer at this dose. So I was getting out of breath in between sets. I would do a set of deadlifts and I'd be like bent over, fucking gasping for air. That was really affecting my workout performance. My low back pumps were also terrible. So I literally like couldn't train as hard because of those two things. Barely any appetite at this dose. So I was really skipping meals at this point, really not eating. I felt like garbage. I had no sex drive, and I started getting gyno. And keep this in mind. This is really fucking key right here. At 1,000 milligrams, there was hardly any additional benefits from 350 mgs, just more side effects. Okay. So the end result of that cycle, like I told you guys, was only 175 pounds. I looked good. I looked okay, but I look way fucking better now. Now that I'm actually locked into my meals, I train really fucking hard, and I'm not using the trend as like a crutch. Okay. So obviously, we all make mistakes when we're in our early 20s. Like we were all stupid 20-year-olds at one point, myself included. So, I can really reflect on that and tell you guys about my experience. So this is how you don't use trend. Okay. So you guys are going to learn from my stupid mistakes and not fucking do this. So let's get into, first of all, the benefits of Trenbolone and why guys use it so much. I'm going to take another sip of water here. Okay. So this is the appeal behind it, and this is why it's such a hot topic, because this is the strongest AAS agent in bodybuilding. Nothing will compare to trend. Like seriously, like nothing will compare to trend. Superdrol, like maybe, but it's just a different drug, and you can't really run it for as long, so you can't really compare the two. But literally nothing will compare to trend. It has a 5-to-1 firepower ratio of testosterone. So what I mean by that is if you take 100 milligrams of Trenbolone, that would equal about 500 milligrams of testosterone and firepower. So if you take 500 milligrams of Trenbolone, that's like 2,500 milligrams of testosterone. So that's how powerful this shit is. And that's why this can be really effective at a low dose, which I'll get into in a little bit. It's extremely fast acting, assuming we're using acetate. So you'll notice changes on your physique within days, and people just love the fast onset of drugs, right? Just regardless of what the drug is. It can even be alcohol, right? So, you drink a beer and, you might get drunk, like a little bit drunk in 30 minutes versus you take 3 shots and you feel fucking drunk instantly, right? So people have the same thing with nicotine, right? That's why guys, when they love vapes, because they get the instant effect of the drug versus they take like a Zyn or something like that. It takes a while to kick in. So people just love that fast onset. Major strength and gym performance booster. So you will notice when you take Trenbolone, your lifts will go up like in the first couple weeks. Like you'll notice 2 to 3 reps more on all of your compound exercises. You'll notice 5 to 10 pound increases on your lifts every single session. It gets addicting. It improves your body composition and nutrient partitioning just by taking the drug. So you can make 0 changes with your diet and just start taking trend, and you'll start to recomposition and get leaner and harder at that same level of food. It produces a hard, dense look that no other drug can really replicate. So to replicate the look that Trenbolone gives you, it takes way more of the other shit, right? It takes like fucking grams and grams of the other shit and slamming orals and stuff versus you just take a little bit of trend and not have to do all these massive injections and take 3 different pills a day. So it makes people feel really, really good and confident, almost like a rec drug. And this is why a lot of people like it. And this is why I personally liked it, because I felt like amazing on it. I could just like, it amplified my characteristics. I'd be really confident in social situations. I could literally be a fucking stand-up comedian when I take Tren. So, I mean, that's why I liked it so much. And it has oral-like firepower, but you can run it longer. So with orals, usually they make you really, really liver toxic, a lot shorter. So if you take something like Anadrol or Superdrol, like you'll notice toxicity effects like lowered appetite, lethargy, and stuff like that within, a couple of weeks. Versus Tren, you don't really get that until later on. And you get the same, like very, very similar firepower. Okay, so these are the benefits. Now, obviously, with anything in bodybuilding, especially with steroids, is like the stronger the drug and the fucking harder that drug kicks in, the more side effects that it gives you. So it's like a double-edged sword. So the downsides to Tren and the side effects. So like we talked about, mental effects, anxiety, paranoia, mood swings, insomnia, constantly sweating and hot. Your cardio goes down. You get out of breath in the gym and it kills your performance. Gyno, we talked about the gyno before. It's not normal gyno. It's like a slow accumulation gyno. High blood pressure destroys your lipids and it tanks your HDL cholesterol. Libido effects, it makes your erections not as strong if you don't control prolactin, which we'll get into that in a little bit too. And you have this almost like rebound effect when you come off. So for about 2 weeks after coming off, you can feel very like depressed and low energy because Tren is such a strong mental stimulant. You come off and you just like crash for like 2 weeks. You feel like it, even if you're cruising on like testosterone, like you'll still feel like garbage. And all of this happens because I'm going to highlight this right here. This is really important. You're taking too much, or you don't know how to control prolactin. Okay? Really, really important. And keep in mind, when you're adding Tren into your cycle, Tren is the cherry on top for that cycle. It is not the meat and potatoes of the cycle. So when we go up here, right, when I was taking 1,000 milligrams of Tren, this was like one of the main anabolics of my cycle. It was like the main injectable I was using. This is not how you use it. You want it to be like almost on the tail end of your cycle at a low dose just to complement all the other shit you're taking. And just to complement your training, to complement your nutrition. It should not be the meat and potatoes. It should not be like the main fucking actor of your cycle. Okay? So let's get into a couple applications of Trenbolone here. So I'm just going to take another sip of water. Okay. Let's get into some applications for Tren. So growing phase, a bulking phase. Trenbolone can absolutely be used in an elongated growing phase. This is something that I've done personally. I think it works really well. So let's get into it. So the reason why guys will use it in a growing phase is because obviously it makes you really strong and it allows you to achieve progressive overload, but also keeps your body composition in check, right? And when you're pushing food and your body composition gets out of control, like your body fat gets too high, you lose insulin sensitivity, you don't grow as well. So Tren can help with this. Now let's just give an example growing phase cycle. So let's say let's say a 6 to 8 month growing phase, you're going to take about 750 milligrams of testosterone, about 500 milligrams of equipoise, 500 MPP, and 4 IUs of GH. It's a pretty typical, growing phase cycle here. Now, let's get into the first growing phase application, and this is going to be periodic use of Trenbolone acetate. And this is going to be used to break past strength plateaus. So you're not going to run this for the entire length of your cycle, the entire 6 to 8 months. You're just going to use it periodically. So, for example, when you run into a strength plateau, like let's say you're doing this dose right here, this cycle, and you've exhausted the amount of progression that you can achieve, you could throw in Tren Ace for about 4 to 6 weeks at a relatively low dose or a moderate dose, 150 mgs to 350 mgs, break past your strength plateau, achieve progressive overload again, and get you growing. And then you come off Tren and you have this newfound level of strength, which then you can use to do more volume in the gym to produce more muscle mass. So you can use it as a strength plateau buster because it makes you really fucking strong very, very, very quickly. So application number 2, this would be at the end of a growing phase. So for the last 4 to 6 weeks, again, around the same dose of acetate, about 150 mgs to 350 mgs per week. And this is basically at the end of your growing phase. You've probably been bulking for a good amount of time, like I said, almost 8 months, and you've pushed your food up pretty high. So your body composition is probably getting, you're probably losing your abs a little bit. Your body fat might be getting a little bit out of range, and you're losing insulin sensitivity. Like I said, when you lose insulin sensitivity because your body fat's too high, you're not growing as optimally. So you can finish off your growing phase and just milk out some more growth for that last 4 to 6 weeks. And you can use it to just keep your body composition in check, push anabolism when insulin sensitivity is being compromised, and allows you to hit your goal numbers, like strength numbers at the end of your growing phase. So let's say, for example, you had a goal of squatting, I don't know, like 500 for 10 at the end of your bulking phase, okay? And you're just about there. You're at like 500 for 7. Okay, you throw in that trend for the last 4 to 6 weeks, boom, you hit that by the end of it easily. All right, application number 3. This is going to be an extremely advanced method, and this method is not for everybody. So keep this in mind. Like, you got to be like very, very seasoned with gear use and bodybuilding to do this, right? I don't even do this. Okay. Like, there are a lot of pros that do this. This is actually a very common application for like a pro bodybuilder or like growing phase cycle, off-season cycle. But this is going to be low to moderate dose Trenbolone and Xanthate for body composition control. Because like I said, Tren does a very good job at controlling body composition. Like I said, you can eat the same amount of food and stay leaner on it and stay more insulin sensitive because it's very good at nutrient partitioning. So usually when guys do this, and the reason why I say an Xanthate and not acetate is typically when I see this approach, guys are using an Xanthate, just from what I've seen across the board. So this would be about 300 to 500 milligrams on top of your other anabolics. And this would be for the full duration of your growing phase. Now, because your health marker is going to be a little bit lower or a little bit more compromised doing this approach, you can't really run growing phase as long. So, a pro could do this, for example, like let's say they have a show in 6 months and they need to put on some size, but they don't really have time to really do like elongated growing phase for like, 8 months, 10 months. And it has to be shorter. They will probably use this approach right here. So this allows you to push food higher and maintain insulin sensitivity and nutrient partitioning, right? Like we talked about. And like I said, it's an advanced method. So this is for guys that have trouble staying lean and maintaining insulin sensitivity when pushing food. So like, guys are naturally endomorphic. They put body fat on easily. They just need something in there to help just control the body composition. And this is not for ectomorphs or fast metabolisms, because what I usually find is with guys that have a very fast metabolism, Tren can actually just ramp that metabolism up even more, and they literally can't grow. They just, they get leaner and harder, but they don't really grow. Like they can't put on weight when they're doing this approach. So usually what I see is with like ectomorphic guys, they do better on like NPP or DECA if they're going to use a 19 NOR. But yeah, this would be for guys that are more on the endomorphic side. So this was the bulking or growing phase application. Let's get into the cutting phase application, because this is like, I would say, the more common approach for Trenbolone. Guys are going to use it when they're cutting. This is kind of like the classic cutting cycle, right? Test, Tren, and Masteron is what I see across the board with a lot of guys running for their dieting cycles. I'm just going to take another sip of water here. Okay. So cutting phase application, let's give an example cutting phase cycle. So let's say 12 to 16 weeks, you're going to run about 750 milligrams of testosterone, let's say 750 mg of Primo, usually like I see a 1-to-1 ratio with Test and Primo, and then 350 milligrams of Masteron, and then 40 is a GH. Okay. So application number 1 for the cutting cycle is going to be the start of the cutting cycle for the first 4 to 6 weeks. So probably use about anywhere from 150 to 350 milligrams of Tren, usually acetate, and it's basically just to kickstart the cutting phase. So most guys will go into a cutting phase at a very high body fat from their bulk, and this method almost allows you to recomposition for the first few weeks of the diet and become more insulin sensitive and set you up for fat loss in the future. So this is, again, this is kind of an advanced method here, but it does work. It does absolutely work, because if you get really lean on that same level of food in those first couple weeks, okay, then you drop the trend and you lower your food, and then you're already in a fat loss state. You're already very insulin sensitive. So it also keeps the motivation really high for the remainder of the diet, because the guy that's dieting is going to see immediate results, right? Because it's going to improve body composition, their strength is going to go up, and it's going to get them really motivated to continue their diet. Versus if they didn't do this approach, they'd be like, okay, well, the fat isn't really coming off, even though it probably is. It's just not coming off as fast, and strength is kind of staying stagnant, or maybe they're losing strength, and they can kind of get demotivated. Versus you kickstart that fucking cycle, and you're like, yeah, let's fucking go. Like, I'm ready to get lean. I'm ready to get fucking shredded. So again, just for motivation. Okay. Application number 2. This is going to be the end of the cutting phase. So this is to peak your look when you're already lean. Because when you're lean, it allows the cosmetic effects from your drugs, including Trenbolone, to show. Have all this fat covering your muscle, right? You can see the hardness, you can see the leanness, the cuts, the definition, all that stuff. So it allows you to maintain or even gain some strength when gym performance takes a hit from low calories. So when your calories drop to a certain amount and when your body fat is at a certain level, strength is going to take a hit 100%. It just is. That's just the nature of it. You don't have the caloric intake to support increasing your loads anymore. Trenbolone, it literally works on low food like no other drug. So it allows you to maintain strength even when you're dieting on, like, let's say you're at the peak, the tail end of your diet, and you're at like 2,000 calories, 1,800 calories, and you just add in that trend, strength goes right back up, and you get just that drive and aggression in the gym again. So trend has a very good anti-catabolic effect. So it allows for muscle retention when calories are low, and when your calories are that low at the end of a diet, and you're just hungry all the time and you're not sleeping and stuff, it's like, your cortisol is going to be up there, and cortisol is the most fucking, like, it's the most catabolic hormone on the planet, the stress hormone. So tren, you throw that in, it's going to allow for that muscle retention towards the end of the diet, so you don't lose muscle and lose your fucking metabolism. And it's just going to enhance your look towards the end of it because you kept so much more muscle, right? So that's the cutting phase application. So again, tren, bulking, cutting, it's multi-purpose. It's a multi-purpose drug. Okay. Now let's get into some side effect mitigation. This is really important here. So most of the side effects from Trenbolone, okay, most of the side effects you guys are dealing with are going to, including anxiety, gyno, low libido, all that stuff, they happen because of out of control prolactin. So this can happen with Tren, but it can also happen with DECA and NPP too if you're prone to it. So if side effects start to arise, start with the lowest effective dose of cabergoline. So cabergoline is an anti-prolactin drug. Pramipexole is also one of those, but cabergoline kicks in a lot faster and just allows you to nip those side effects in the butt right away within the same day, versus pramipexole will take a longer time to kick in. So start at the lowest effective dose of cabergoline, so 0.25 milligrams one time per week. So usually cabergoline comes in either 0.25 mg or 0.5 mg pills. So you can split that up and just take that with one Tren injection per week. Easy. Now you can titrate that dose up as needed if you still experience side effects until you get the desired effect, but do not exceed 1 milligram per week, because cabergoline is just like at a certain dose, it can actually become cardiotoxic. So we don't want that. We don't want more shit in our body that's going to cause more like negative health effects. So don't exceed 1 milligram per week. Now, if you find yourself needing more than 1 milligram per week to control side effects, just lower the dose of Tren. Easy fix. Like, you probably don't need to be taking that much, because remember, the firepower of Trenbolone is a 5-to-1 ratio from testosterone to Trenbolone, right? So if you're taking 350 mg of Tren and you're getting out of control prolactin side effects, and 1 milligram of cabergoline is not cutting it, just lower your fucking dose to 150 mgs. You get less side effects, and you're going to get the same effects from the Tren, right? Remember, the Tren is the cherry on top. It's not, you don't need to dose it that fucking high. So you can also get some blood work just to confirm that the issues are actually coming from hyperlactin. If it's really a problem and cabergoline isn't really doing anything to control it, get some bloods and see what's really going on. It could be an estrogen issue, it could be a prolactin issue, it could be a whole host of things that blood work can help you confirm. Okay, let's talk about maintaining health markers. So just to be honest, we know tren is not the healthiest drug to take. No drug in bodybuilding is healthy, but tren especially is going to, do some numbers on your blood markers. So keep in mind, just being on Trenbolone will cause elevation of LDL and HDL cholesterol. It's just the nature of the drug. Okay, like anytime I have a guy that I work with that's taking Trenbolone, their LDL is usually pretty low. Now, keep in mind, we're not going to be on tren forever. So we have to understand when we get our blood work, when we're on cycle, it's not going to look crystal clear. Okay. We're not going to be on that drug forever. So tren is notorious also for causing high blood pressure. So like I said before, blood pressure, having chronically high blood pressure is the silent killer of bodybuilders, because that's going to cause kidney stress, and kidney stress is going to cause a whole host of issues down the road, which we don't want. So we need to control this. So take blood pressure supplements or telmisartan or Cialis to control it if it's really an issue for you. Do regular cardio. Easy one right there. A lot of you guys are taking tren, but you're skipping fucking cardio, which like a fucking idiot. So make sure you're doing that on a daily basis, right? Whether it's fasted in the morning or post-workout, get the heart rate up there, get yourself sweating, and that's going to drastically reduce blood pressure. Even just not taking tren, you should keep that in year round. Eat a clean diet. A lot of guys are taking tren and they think, oh, well, the tren's just going to burn all this body fat and increase my metabolism. So I'm going to eat all these cheat meals and get off my diet because the tren can, help me, fucking like eat a shit diet and stay fucking jacked and lean. Now, don't get in that mindset because, tren can give you some leeway on your diet, right? It can absolutely give you some leeway on your diet. Maybe you can eat like one extra cheat meal per week on it, but like don't have your whole diet be garbage, because the extra sodium, carbohydrates can cause all this water retention, and that water retention is going to cause the blood pressure issue. So eat a clean diet, eat your normal bodybuilding diet, like just take advantage of the fucking drug and to eat more food, eat more clean bodybuilding food, right? You don't have to have all these cheat meals just because you're on tren. And drink more water than usual. At least 1.5 gallons. You're going to be sweating a lot when you take tren. You're going to be dehydrated more often. So just make sure your water intake is getting up there. Okay. And lastly, tren is not for everyone. Okay. If the side effects are too extreme to manage and cabergoline is not controlling them, or you're just doing everything and you're still getting issues from tren, like you think your fucking like partner's cheating on you all the time, you're getting high blood pressure, you're getting nosebleeds in the gym just for fucking doing a set of 2 on deadlifts, you get fucking I don't know, like gyno, and your dick doesn't work, all this crazy shit, just pick a different compound. It's not that hard, right? I mean, tren is not required. Yes, it can help with any goal, but it's not required. Okay, you can use other things. Again, like I know I said before, like all the fucking guys that say tren isn't for competitors, they're fucking retarded. But again, like if you're not competing and you're just doing bodybuilding for life, I mean, yes, you can use tren, but if it's new issues, just do something else. Use something else that makes you feel better. Okay. So that is the ultimate guide to Trenbolone. So I need to not preface this, but I need to state this. This is all assuming that your diet and your training is completely in check, right? Otherwise, the tren isn't going to do fuck all, right? So we need to make sure those things are in check first. So if you guys are struggling with anything diet or training related, just click the link in the description here. I have a full in-depth guide on the step-by-step process I use to transform all my clients, where I talk about the training principles I prescribe, the nutrition protocols, all that kind of stuff, and stuff you can apply literally your own program like the next day. So, if you guys are slacking in that area, watch that video first, apply it, and then go apply stuff from this to start using tren. Okay. But I hope this helped out. I'm going to be making a lot more educational videos around these topics. But I just figure, you guys don't see a whole lot of videos like this, actually like telling you in depth on how to use this drug. Usually it's people just fucking reading shit off a PubMed study telling you not to fucking use it, right? So we need real life application for these things, and this is exactly why I made this video. So appreciate you guys watching. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, shoot me a follow, Evan Quinn Fitness, and we'll do more videos of these soon.